Hello everyone, good morning again. This is Dave, Jiu-Jitsu Uncle, and I welcome you to our third episode of our JitsChat. Mainly me talking while biking about Jiu-Jitsu while biking while heading to the gym. Again, this is just our third episode, so I'm still trying to get the best audio that I can get while dealing with wind noise from biking. So bear with me until I figure this out, and I will also try to talk a little faster so that the videos don't, or the audio podcast episode doesn't get too long. And lastly, I want to be able to cut the episode shorter. And in today's episode, we want to talk about the topic of how to train with the opposite sex, gender, in case for whatever reason that word might be filtered or banned or whatever. The reason why, realistically, the topic will probably be more awkward, I would guess, for men who are a bit conscious of training with women, but I think it also applies for women who don't know what to expect when training with men. But having said that, I'm not a woman, so maybe I'll hopefully in the future, near future, I can get somebody with first-hand authority to talk about the topic, because I don't want to make assumptions of what the female gender feels or experiences, because let us not mansplain these things. But so this video is targeted mostly for, again, middle-aged target audiences, but it applies to everyone. And note that it is an opinion piece, it is an editorial episode. Take everything with a grain of salt. Put in your comments if you don't agree, or if you have more tips that you want to add. So the topic about training with women or opposite sex seems like a silly thing to talk about, because you would imagine that we're all adults, we're all civilized, educated people who know social norms and should be able to do the right thing. But we all know that's not really that easy, even before the cultural sensitivity changes that has been made more aware the past decade or so, which I think is a positive thing. So I think the more we know, the more we are conscious about what's going on, the better. How you apply it based on your own country or society's norms will be up to you to adapt, but I'm just keeping it strictly within the context of training in the gym. So let me get started. The first is understand that they are there to train as well. They're there to get a workout, they're there to get better at jiu-jitsu, they're there to have fun, they're there to challenge themselves. They are not there to, well, I'd say a vast 99.9% of them are not there to have other motives, such as catfishing or looking for sales target, sales prospects and stuff. I think that's an expensive way to acquire customers. But anyway, everybody's in the gym to train, to learn jiu-jitsu. with that in mind, it would be good to just treat that person with that lens. They're there to train just like you. If they're roughly the same level as you, they probably have relatively the same aspirations and challenges as you. The only probable thing that, the most likely thing that you have to be most conscious of is physiological. So not trying to be sexist at all with this whole topic about gender equality in this topic. I'm just talking about physiologically speaking, biologically speaking, men just have significant differences. And I wouldn't say necessarily advantage, but just significant physical differences versus women. From bone density, the structure, muscle mass, general weight, the presence of testosterone versus estrogen ratio, all those things add up. It's the same reason why you see in other sports, it's pretty common to see high school teenagers being able to compete, if not outcompete, professional female athletes. You've seen that in basketball, you've seen that in football and running, those kind of scenarios. Even Serena Williams at her peak explicitly said in interviews that she probably wouldn't even crack the top 100 in the men's ATP tour because they're just physiologically different. There's nothing sexist about that, it's just biological. So I don't want to cover that argument too much. Going back to the mats, that means you have to be a little bit more conscious as to the amount of impact, the amount of weight, and the amount of pressure you apply when rolling with women, because it will not be that difficult for you to pop a rib or cause a fracture in somebody's arm or femur. Just by your body weight. If let's say you're on top side control or kesagatame, scarf roll, and your ribs are grinding on her ribs, even without you doing much, you're inducing a lot more stress to their ribs than yours. So be careful with that, right? Other obvious things like, when you're taking an arm, from a figure four and things like that, the size of the bones and stuff is almost like an equivalent of rolling with, not just from a weight perspective, like on average, like at least here in Asia, most guys will probably be within the 68 to 80 kg range, people who train. Women would probably be in their high 40s to low 60s, right, to the mid 60s at best. So if you think about it in just a men's perspective, you're pretty much rolling with somebody like 4 weight classes under you. So be mindful of that, just because they have a higher belt on their waist, or they even look roughly around the same size as you from a height perspective. Just be careful to not injure your partner. The next thing would be some of the, I would say, sensitive type of scenarios when you're rolling with women, is obviously contact in the chest area and between the legs and somebody in the triangle and things like that, right? Realistically speaking, I would imagine that a person training will not be too concerned about that if there's no ill intent and there's no there's no explicit action that would cause a misunderstanding. Why? Simply because if you get me in a triangle, or you know, one arm in, one arm out in between somebody's legs, what can I do, right? But at the same time, you as a person that got caught inside would have to be a little bit more conscious as to where to post and how to get out of that in a more technical fashion than you would with a guy, right? You wouldn't put all your weight to post on the chest, for example, if you're inside somebody's clothes guard. Things like that. I think it's pretty common sense, right? I mean, don't touch the regions that you're not supposed to be touching as much as possible, unless it's a result of a scramble. It just happened to slide or grip or whatever because you're holding onto the lapel or whatever. I'm pretty sure most female grapplers do not want to be babied in that way, because it might be disrespectful, because they have signed up knowing that this is a contact sport, I would imagine, but there is a certain level of decorum and civility that should be expected when we step on the mat, regardless of gender, right? We don't oil check people, for example. Hold on. We don't oil check men, for example, right? We don't yank and twist the meander region, for example. Why can't we do the same naturally with women? You should be able to. There are things that you have to be a little bit more conscious about, such as hair, for example, when trying to cross face them, not end up like tugging their hair and stuff. They do that to themselves when they're rolling and when they're competing, as you can watch it from a lot of the competition videos. And I think you can learn a lot from watching female matches as to how natural it is for them to be conscious about what hurts outside the realm of grappling. You know, they're quite, no matter how scrambly or how crazy the matches get, there is a magical ability for female grapplers to avoid yanking each other's scalp or inadvertently hitting somebody's chest, for example, and things like that. Just watch those scenarios, and you don't have to kind of learn it, but just kind of see how, if you see the other partner as just another rolling partner, you don't have any ill intentions of doing something creepy, you should be pretty good. And you just have to add that extra sense of sensitivity as to what not to do, right? Don't try to do a mounted triangle and just staying there without actually attempting this up, for example. Even if you do it to men, that is annoying as shit. Why would you do it to anybody else that could make it an inappropriate or uncomfortable scenario? If you're going to get to a mounted triangle, finish it, right? Or just get off, whatever it might be. So I think that's short and pretty sweet from trying to get to that point. There's really nothing that drastic that you have to do as a male to roll with female, other than not being an alpha male creep about it. You know, stop sexualizing training. Stop making fun of, stop using gender as a joke, for example, as an excuse to do all those things, even verbally. So just train like an adult, just train like a gentleman, just train like a civilized member of society, and I think we'll be all good. So hope that was helpful. I hope that was interesting for you to start a conversation at least. And I hope to see you in the next episode. And I'm glad I'm able to keep this under 15-ish minutes. Jiu-Jitsu Uncle out. See ya.